Hello, my name is Aaron Sornborger. Today I'm going to be talking about social media, looking through the lens of social psychology specifically. So, social psychology is a behavioral driver based upon the idea of people's desire to fit in, show off, or stand out, sometimes encompassing all three of these, only two of them, or just one of them, and sometimes being driven by an entirely different idea of their desire to be within a social group. So social identity theory focuses on five really main driving forces for what pushes people to be a active part of these kind of social groups. And that would be group membership, self-categorization, status, legitimacy, and self-esteem. And again, they're kind of self-explanatory, but I'll kind of focus on how they fall into what drives people to be active members on social media. I'm going to be really talking about activity on like three main platforms, and that would be Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Of course, there's, m- tons of other social media outlets, but I feel like these are the ones that really focus on, again, this group membership, this status, this self-categorization, this kind of identity even, and this focus on self-esteem and how a person views themselves. So what makes social media so popular? And I think there's several key ideas that make people want to stay on social media and put so much time into it. The first being social interaction. Um, we know as marketing students that consumer decisions are greatly influenced by this idea of fitting in, this idea of being part of a social group, um, how others think about you, what others notice when they see you, the questions that they ask based on your actions. And the social interaction is a huge driving force of bringing active members to these social platforms and the social media because people want to know what others think about them. People want these questions to be asked, but only really in a positive light. And by socially interacting on a platform where you're in a social group that's built to positively enforce your views, you're going to spend more time on that platform. And that's where social media builds these positive social interactions that keep users engaged. And social relationships are also a big part of the social interaction, but these are kind of more the building blocks of the social groups themselves and these kind of social bubbles, I like to call them. Because human beings we're intrinsically social. We want to build these relationships and we want to build these groups. And we're aware of these other people and how they kind of exist within these groups and these bubbles. But sometimes we lose the awareness of their influence on our own decision makings and how easily it is for other people to influence our decisions based on this kind of identity that we play in the group and this idea of kind of fitting in and standing out. And content creators are kind of the leading force on this idea of these social groups within the social media bubble. Um, and I like to say that there's social groups within social groups within social groups. So I like this pyramid example a lot. So it's like, how do you identify with them? Yeah. So you're at the bottom of the pyramid because like, oh, I identify with the social creator. I'm going to be part of the social group. And then the second layer, are you like a member of status within this group? Do you have some kind of authority in the social group? And do these kind of people fit in the same category as you? Are they people that you'd like view highly or they view lowly, or do you have like a kind of a status above them? Are you in this like top layer of the pyramid? So I think content creators build social bubbles within their own social groups, and it allows people to build these special kind of relationships with each others and interact with each others on a different type of level. And again, this kind of feeds into the conflicting social desires that we have as humans for standing out versus fitting in. And while social bubbles is a great example for like these relationships and this kind of pyramid of social interaction, I think this these Instagram wall pictures are a great idea example of conflicting social desires. Um, Not to be, generalizing or anything, but if you're gonna look at like your average woman that visits Los Angeles, specifically the Melrose area, there's a pretty high chance she's taken a picture in front of this wall and posted on social media. And it feels really this kind of weird, contradictory social desire to stand out because you're so different from like the typical person that you interact with in your normal social bubble on Instagram, but you also fit into this kind of stereotypical social bubble of those that, visit Los Angeles and appreciate this kind of art. Whereas if you're somebody that grew up in Los Angeles like me, I think this is very funny. I think it's like, haha, look at what this person is doing. That's so typical of them to, they kind of fit into a different type of social group to me, but they stand out in like their own social group, but also fit into like another social group that they desire to be in. So it's kind of this weird relationship between all of these social groups within these social bubbles within like this whole platform of social media. So again, it's this kind of weird psychology of what you as a person desire falls into fitting so many different types of social groups and social bubbles. So I want to focus on like what your average person sees on a Snapchat story and what your average person is going to post, because I think it kind of builds upon this idea of these conflicting social desires. So I think on average, what somebody's going to post on a Snapchat story is either food, relationships, parties, or I like to, flexing or showing off. So food, um, I think it's a great example of standing out, but also fitting in. Because like, if you're gonna post food, it's gonna usually be something special. So you're like, wow, look at this fancy thing I'm eating. But it's also like this weird fitting in because like, who doesn't eat food? Everybody eats food, and everybody that's like part of this weird social bubble that like everybody eats food. And same with parties. Like most people interact with humans outside of like, the work or school environment. So parties like showing off that relationship so you kind of stand out, but you're also fitting in because there's a whole, there's a mini social group bubble within that party. Same with flexing or showing off. You're standing out because you're like, wow, look at this status symbol I have. But it also puts you in the bubble of fitting in with the other people who have that status symbol. Same with relationships. Like, wow, look at these relationships that I have. I'm standing out because of it. But again, you're putting yourself to fit in with the other people that have those same relationships as you. And the common denominators in all of these, driving forces is they're either status symbols that make you different or show that you're interacting with others to fit in. So the status symbol is going to always be a common part of fulfilling both of being both like the desires of being different yet interacting with others and being accepted into the social group. So it's kind of an interesting paradox that the status symbol is going to fulfill both the contradictory desires. And what do these social media platforms really offer from the social psychology point of view that, something like, I don't know, going to a bar would offer? Well, and here's the thing, when you have this social group on social media, they offer a different kind of bubble within the social group. Like I said earlier, there's a social group within a social group within a social group. So it begins with acceptance into like, the first layer of the social group. Then you start interacting with these people. It allows you to interact and, feel this communal sense within the social group. And from there you compound and you build relationships. And that kind of develops in this second social group within the social group or a social bubble within the group, and that allows you to stand out. So it's fulfilling both your needs of fitting into the overall social group, but you're also standing out from the overall social group because now you fit in more into your own little bubble within the group, but you stand out from the rest of the group. And here comes the approval aspect. You have approval from both people within the group and within the bubble because they're all part of the same social group, but you stand out from the group because you're in your own little bubble. So it's just kind of this weird connection between the different layers of social media. I like to use the pink wall as an example. It's quoted the most Instagram wall in LA, and it got vandalized to say "Go f your selfie." I just think it's a very interesting statement on the state of the wall because look at this. Everybody's taking a picture on the wall because everybody has to be different, but they're all the same. That's the paradox of this contradictory desires that people will try so hard to stand out, but by standing out, they're fitting in because you want to stand out to fit in. It's this weird paradox of doing the most in order to just be a normal person. Just going above and beyond just to feel normal. So I think social media has kind of emphasized people's necessity to do the most, to show off, to fit in. And this kind of desire to be one's own influencer. So you want to consistently show off so you can be like, oh wow, look what I'm doing. But in reality, you're not influencing, you're fitting in. And so by doing the most to, stand out and set a trend, you're actually doing the most to fit in. So I think the influencer concept is kind of contradictory in itself as well, because sure, they can influence a bunch of people, but then they're not standing out anymore. So the whole idea of an influencer kind of vanishes. It's this weird paradoxical contradictory relationship that people's desire have with the platforms of social media and what it offers. And thank you. I just wanted to really focus on this kind of weird paradox on, self-categorization and status, and how that really, what does that do to like the legitimacy of your group membership if you categorize yourself as within a bubble within that actual group? And what does your status mean as a member of the bubble? How is it different from, being a member of the group? And I think it's kind of a tough topic to tackle nowadays, but it's important to note that this contradictory desire is what drives all of this.